In recent years, there's been an increase in the risk of arrest a Brit might face based on what they post on social media. It is a surprise to many internet users, particularly those in the United States, where robust freedom of speech laws like the First Amendment protect pretty much all types of public speech against government prosecution. But can this be true for the UK? The UK does not have the same freedom of speech protection as the US. The Malicious Communications Act 1988, or Section 127 of the Communications Act 2003, defines illegal communication as using public electronic communications network in order to cause annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety. So the key element to this law is that people are using public communication, so that their indecent, offensive, or threatening communications can be seen and heard by society at large, rather than whispered to a friend, or the social media equivalent, a DM message. And breaking this law carries a 6-month prison term or fine of up to £5,000. With the growth of social media, where many people post more aggressively than they would communicate in the real world, this legislation can be used to stamp out negative communications. But is it used? Are 3,000 people really arrested every year for breaking the law in the UK? Well, in a word, yes, it is used, but not in all cases as a blanket legislation the average person should be concerned with. A recent study found negative words typically used to hurl abuse at women, such as slut and whore, were used by UK Twitter users 10,000 times in 3 weeks. Yet in the last 5 years, there has only been 2,986 people that were detained under this law. And this figure is going down year on year, from 690 at its peak in 2020 to 482 the following year. Presumably, people being stuck at home during COVID-19, no doubt filled with anxiety, made it easier for them to lash out, assuming there would be no repercussions. And that highlights another reality here, that while just under 3,000 people were detained using this law, many would have not been prosecuted, even though we'd hope that they would stop using public communications network, like social media, to make these offensive comments or posts. And many cases were even thrown out of court. In 2010, Paul Chambers was arrested for tweeting, "Crap, Robin Hood Airport is closed. You've got a week and a bit to get your shit together, otherwise I'm blowing the airport sky high." Chambers' prosecution in 2010 started a national debate about the use of Section 127, with his trial dubbed the Twitter joke trial, attracting support from celebrities like Stephen Fry. Chambers' conviction was eventually quashed by the UK's High Court in 2012. Azhar Ahmed, sentenced to 240 hours of community service and a £300 fine after posting on Facebook after 6 British soldiers were killed in Afghanistan. Ahmed wrote, "People gassing about the deaths of soldiers. What about the innocent families who have been brutally killed? Your enemies were the Taliban, not innocent, harmless families. All soldiers should die and go to hell." Or Joshua Cryer, sentenced to 240 hours of community service and court costs of £150 for sending racist tweets to footballers. The prosecution argued that Cryer's messages were not impulsive, but a new hobby sent up to 7 times over a period of days that were intended to provoke a reaction from his targets. Daniel Thomas, arrested for tweeting homophobic remarks about UK Olympic divers Tom Daley and Pete Waterfield. Thomas's message reportedly read, "If there is any consolation for finishing 4th, at least Daley and Waterfield can go and bum each other, #Team HIV. In the end, no charges were brought against Thomas, with Keir Starmer, then the UK's Director of Public Prosecutions, concluding that the message were only intended to be seen by friends and family, not Daley and Waterfield themselves. Isabella Sawley, sentenced to 12 weeks in jail for tweeting at feminist writer Caroline Criado Perez and Labour MP Stella Creasy, who were campaigning for the UK's next £10 note to feature a woman. Sawley told the women, "Kill yourself before I do. Rape is the last of your worries. I've just got out of prison and would happily do more time to see you buried." She later told BuzzFeed News she was drunk while sending the messages and said, If you're putting someone's life in danger or making them feel scared, that's different to free speech. The latest example is the case of 36-year-old Joseph Kelly of Castlemilk, Glasgow, who was found guilty of sending a grossly offensive tweet about Captain Sir Tom Moore. Moore was a British Army officer who raised money for the UK's National Health Service by walking 100 laps around his garden prior to his 100th birthday. And on February the 3rd, 2020, the day after Moore died, Kelly tweeted, "The only good Brit soldier is a dead one. Burn, old fella, burn." He was sentenced community payback after comprising 18 months of supervision and 150 hours of unpaid work. So yes, you can be arrested for sharing comments that cause annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety. So, as perhaps we all should, when posting on social media, ask yourself if you'd be comfortable shouting out aloud in a busy public area the things you want to post online. If the answer is no, you should think twice before hitting send. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for joining me. Please like and subscribe to my channel so I can bring more videos to you soon.